Our next game in the progression is going to be what is likely to be a very high scoring and also a very important game in the Pac-12 with Washington going to USC. I think this is kind of the last, stand for USC this season is a fair way to put it, considering the two losses. Still very much alive for the Pac-12 title, though, because only one loss in league play. On the other side of things, Washington looking to rebound after two sluggish performances. Of course, everybody seems to get right against USC's defense, so perhaps this is the second Heisman moment of the season for Michael Penix and that Washington offense. But on paper, high-scoring game expected. The over-under is 76. Which defense, much like Oregon and Washington, which defense can get a timely stop or two is probably going to be the difference here.
Well, we know which defense is better. I mean, Washington's defense is better.
Better,
I don't.
but
Vegas is begging you to take Washington. USC turmoil, questions. They're playing these bizarro football games. Like that game against Cal was completely bizarre. Had to come back twice. Just so strange. Who allows 49 points to Cal? Who does that? To your point. But 3.5, 3 points or whatever. That is Vegas begging you to take Washington. And ultimately, my question about Washington, and this is not fair to lump all these Pac-12 teams together, but it's not fair. But ultimately, is somebody good enough in this conference to beat everybody? That is what you have to do to get out of the conference championship game with one loss. Oregon has to run the table the rest of the way. Everyone else, it's down to Washington and USC with one loss in the conference. So can you get out of conference play with one loss? Like this is like the moment where Washington has to prove that it is just better. That's kind of my theme this week for all these teams. Like show us that you're just better. And we just got done talking about this with LSU and Bama. We're going to talk about it with all the other games. If you are the Pac-12 champion, if you're the fifth best team in America, if you're the team that's going to finally break this streak for the Pac-12 and get into the playoff, and you're going to do it with a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback, a defense that did play physically against Oregon, that did show up and play in big moments on fourth down against Oregon. If you are that team, you go on the road and you beat a USC team that is tripping all over itself constantly. Vegas wants you to believe that. So that's why I'm skeptical here, Steve.
Yeah, the line caught my attention too. Like I said, I think there is some motivation here for USC. I mean, I guess whether you question motivation or not, because they didn't play well against Cal last week, but they found a way to win. I mean, at this point of the season, out of the playoff race, you wonder about the performance of some teams here in the month of November. I think there's a couple keys here stating the obvious here, Penix and Caleb Williams are going to have a monster game on Saturday. Both defenses are iffy. They're going to give up a lot of yards and points. Where the margins might matter here, USC is better than Washington at creating negative plays. USC has 70 tackles for loss. Washington has 34, 23 sacks for USC, 10 for Washington. Pressure gave Washington trouble against Arizona State. So if you're USC's defensive front, can you create just enough to slow down Washington? The health of Jalen McMillan is also key here for Washington. He's been banged up the last couple of weeks. Does he play? Also, I think USC needs to do a better job of getting the ball to Marshawn Lloyd, averaging 7.7 yards per carry. Washington is 103rd in the nation in rush defense success rate. So defense, timely stops, maybe which team can run out the clock at the end of the game, which, Lloyd versus Dylan Johnson, two former SEC running backs. Like I said, the over-under 76, this is the same thing as Oregon and Washington a few weeks ago. Which one of these teams has the ball last, or who can get one timely stop late in the fourth quarter is probably going to end up being the determining factor.
It's hard to say like which team is playing better because they both are playing with they've won, but with some questionable play. And this goes to my point about why I believe Oregon is the better football team. Like their body of work is more impressive. I mean, just based on last week, to go into Utah and to physically dominate the way Oregon did, they went into Utah and they showed everybody that they are just better than Utah. Like we're just better. We're just better than you, and we're better than everybody else we've played, except for that really great game we played against our arch rival in Seattle, where where frankly I think Washington played its best game of the season so far. I think USC, for some reason, I think it's USC's time to mess some stuff up. Like this feels like we're going to mess up the Pac-12. USC's at home. They have all these issues. Washington's been kind of messing with itself and playing with food, and offense was terrible against a bad Arizona State team. They weren't all that great last week either. They have played in these tough games for a month now, and they have not looked great for a month now in those moments. I kind of am leaving USC here. I'm not sure if Washington is the complete undefeated team that maybe their record indicates. I don't know. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe I'm being unfair.
We're due for some chaos, right?
You just mentioned they're 103rd in rush defense success rate. It's terrible.
Right. So Lincoln Riley, get Marshawn Lloyd the ball. Also tell Alex Grinch to watch film from Stanford and Arizona State.
We know that's not happening.
Right. I think, like I said, high scoring. I think 1 or 2 stops here. My first inclination in this game was to take USC just because they're at home. I think they can win with their offense, but I think Penix and Washington gets back on track a little bit here, and they do just enough. It's hard to trust one team over another, but something just tells me USC covers, but Washington wins.